Yeah.
You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts Joe Mandel, Steven Zim Zimmerman, and Chris Gonzalez. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Kaminsky dog with an ice cold beer and meet us in section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your 2021 South Burbs Hitmen.
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes. Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs.
Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges throws. Out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
Alexei. Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley. And what an unbelievable play by Dwayne Wise.
First pitch starts now. What's up, everybody? This program for breaking ballroom news. That's right. Talk about
We're
live
right
show.
at it.
Here we go, baby. We're right out the gate breaking ballroom news. Welcome to South Burbs Hitmen. I'm your host, Joe Mandel. Joining me is Steven Zim Zimmerman and Chris Gonzalez. And Zim, you had a drop. Let's hear it one more time. We interrupt this program for breaking ballroom news. That's right. We got some breaking news coming in fresh from the mouth of Tony La Russa. That's right. Tim Anderson is going to get an MRI on that knee. Here's a quote from Tony La Russa on the injury. He had an MRI this afternoon, have not heard the results. Obviously, we'll wait until we get those results. But the first indication is he pulled up before he really started digging while running the first base. Once he felt something, he didn't try to run through it, which is a good sign. I'd say if you told me he'd be ready opening day on Thursday, we would all be very pleased. I don't see him playing here for a couple of days for sure. So, gentlemen, I was scared when it happened last night. This makes it a whole lot scarier. And we saw what happened without Tim in the lineup last night. Of course, we have Nick Madrigal leading off tonight. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on the injury to Tim Anderson? And are you scared for your life? Gonzo, I'll throw it to you first.
Ordinary, I would be scared. It just seemed like during the broadcast last night, the ESPN crew was noticing that it didn't seem like it was too big coming from Tim as when they were going to the dugout. It seemed like, that there wasn't anything major about Tim's vibe that would be something like crazy, news as far as his injury. But they have mentioned that Tony La Russa, just in general, is a pretty precautionary guy. So I would imagine that Tim will be sitting out in Seattle and, better chances for him to get back into the lineup opening today here in the home opener on Thursday.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Zim, what are you thinking about Timmy Anderson and the injury?
I mean, anytime you hear the letters MRI, there's
scary,
I'm
right?
always worried. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what the news actually is before I worry too much. But I mean, I'm not exactly looking forward to anything this week now because I'm going to be worried that news is going to come out that we're down 2 star players. So knock on wood, that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm real interested to see how this lineup's going to work tonight because for those of you that haven't seen the lineup card, you got Madrigal leading off, followed by Luis Robert. So I'm excited to see how that might work out because I could see that potentially working out really well because, Madrigal can hit. He's been horrible fielding, but the kid can hit. He didn't run those bases very well, but it still paid off somehow last night. What do you guys think about that lineup decision for tonight?
It's one of those things where Tony's still testing the lineup no matter, who he does have available. He still has to see what everyone's role is going to be. And we're just going to have to really see here. I mean, with the lefty lineup, they should be hitting him, but we're still missing those two power bats of, Tim Anderson as your leadoff hitter and Eloy Jimenez as your sixth hitter, fourth, fifth or sixth hitter. So, I mean, hopefully we, even with missing our bigger bats, they're still able to, put up some offensive production and let the pitching staff be able to, cover for them and get some wins out in Seattle. And then when we come home, hopefully we have Tim back and we can have a little bit more fun with that lineup.
Yeah, with Anderson out and Magical taking over that one spot, to me, it seems like as much as Anderson is that guy that you want there, to me, he's more of a two-spot hitter. Even though he's got that high average, he's got more power than I like in a leadoff guy. That's just me personally. Nick Magical fits that more prototypical leadoff guy to me, so I'm totally all right with that move. What I'm going to be curious to see is Leury Garcia taking over at shortstop. Defensively, Anderson's not the top defensive shortstop in the league, but with the defensive issues we've already seen in this early season, I like Garcia really the best case that we can do there.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of options. We'll see what Tony does, but I just want to. I'm excited to see the lineup tonight, so I'm excited about it, and I think we can have a good chance to get a W tonight in Seattle, even though we've been horrible on the West Coast. But man, it's been a rough start to the year. We're 1-3. I have the feeling. Let's see what we got here. It wasn't going to be easy. It is a marathon, Lauro. It's very true. But I tell you one thing, do not hit the panic button, White Sox fans. We're 4 games into the season. It's one series. It's not like last year. It's not 60 games. We have a full marathon season to run, and this team's going to figure itself out. They've always been bad on the West Coast. Not that that's an excuse, but they're always bad on the West Coast. And, they got to get gelling together as a team. They've had a lot of changes the last couple weeks, injuries left and right, lineup swaps, the whole shebang. So I'm not worried about it. Gonzo and Zim, are you guys worried? Because I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it either. The NBC put the stat up that last season, the shortened season, we started off, 1 for 4, I believe it was, and we turned that around going like 35, or no, not 35, like 31 or 24, something like that down the stretch. This year, it's a new season. It's going to be different. They're going to have to face a lot of challenges throughout the season. It is a marathon. But gosh, with how the talent that we have on our roster, with the arms, our pitching staff, I'm not too worried about the offensive production because it's going to be there. It's going to be fluid at times. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this shapes up and what at the trade deadline, if they do need a bat or an arm, let's see what they bring in and how they continue to go down the stretch. Because even at the end of the season, the last month or two of the season is not that bad of a schedule. When you break it down, it's actually really nice to look at least at the moment. You don't know what these teams are going to be like down the road, but it looks promising at the moment.
Yeah. Zim, you worried at all?
I mean, yes and no. There are some worrying things that we've seen, but the games aren't nearly as important as they were in a shortened season like last year. So there's plenty of time to get this stuff cleaned up. As much as you do want to see better defense, it's March, or I guess it's April,
barely.
What have you. It's barely April. There's going to be mistakes made in the early season. So let's get them out of our system now. And come September, hopefully this is a good competitive team that's cleaned up all these kind of iffy mistakes.
For sure. Yeah, I hope so, man. And we actually got a great question here in the chat from Tooch. If Anderson's out for an extended amount of time, who would you like to see the White Sox bring up? And I'll go ahead and field my answer first, guys, and then I'll let you go. But I don't think you bring anybody up. I think what you do is I think you could move Moncada to short and put Lamb at third. I mean, you've got a lot of depth options. You like you said, you can play with Leury Garcia. I don't know if anyone's quite ready yet to come up at that position, at least in my opinion. Gonzo, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, that's a very tough position with the depth that we have there. I mean, Garcia is going to play there. You got Mendick that can come up from the AAA team or our Schaumburg team that they're calling it. You also have, I think it's Mike Reynolds. He was having a pretty decent spring training. This is probably an option that you're going to have to go out of the organization to get if you want to put some type of better production in your lineup. You're probably going to go out of house, and maybe you would, at the trade deadline, instead of focusing on your outfield, you put that focus into your middle infield, because even the international signings that we got in this past winter of Cespedes and Colas, they're both outfield prospects. So you don't necessarily need to go out of the organization to go get outfield depth with the production from there, than really to focus infield if that's how this season's shaping up with the challenges that you have to face.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from with that. I don't know who's going to be a quality player that you can acquire. Maybe as the deadline gets nearer, if that's a legitimate issue, we can look at some of those names. But for the time being, I think that if you have to put Anderson on the IL, you're bringing up Danny Mendick, just because he's the only guy, I think, who's got legitimate major league experience where you're not putting just a regular utility guy sort of there. And then I think that Joe's option of putting Yohan Moncada at short and putting Lamb at third, that's actually what I thought was going to happen tonight before I saw Garcia.
So did I. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's plenty of options within the organization that Chris was talking about there. Hopefully it doesn't come down to having to acquire anybody later in the season. That's the hope.
If we're going to acquire anybody, let's make it a pitcher, but a starting pitcher, that is. But then again, we'll see what our guys have. Cease was doing okay last night, but he collected himself. The pen has been inconsistent at best to start the year, but early season jitters. Let's get him out now.
Joe, let me add on to that real quick, because on the MLB Network today, they were also talking about this, and the White Sox are not the only team facing this challenge right now. There's other teams playing position players out of position, some key guys. The Blue Jays were playing Vladimir Guerrero from third and moved him to first, and he had his errors there. Eduardo Suarez from the Reds, they moved him from third base to shortstop. I mean, you got some names out there that teams are moving around to see what they got at positions of need at the moment. So, this is definitely something fluctuation right now that we're going to have to, see how it plays out.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. It's one of those things where a lot of teams have the same problem, and we just gotta sort through it all. We have a lot of talent in the organization, so I think we're going to work and figure it out. But gentlemen, let's move into our first segment of the night. We like to break down Tony La Russa's decision-making and what's going on in the games in a segment that we like to call La Russa's Locker. Yes, gentlemen. That's right. It's showtime, baby. It's showtime. And Tony La Russa had a wild couple first games of decision-making, which we have a lot to talk about in this segment. I wasn't sure if we would or not, but we sure do. And let's lead off with opening night. Tony La Russa choosing not to challenge on the Nick Madrigal stolen base that he clearly was safe on. Gentlemen, he said it's because the rule changed from 30 to 20 seconds. But did Tony La Russa just fall asleep at the wheel? Gonzo, you're up first.
Yeah, I think he did. Fell asleep at the wheel. It did impact the game with how that ending could have shaped up to be. I'm not too worried about it if he missed one, because he did challenge the next one, and hopefully it was just a learning moment early on in the season that he learned from and can continue to be onto and not let that happen again, and to challenge the things that he needs to either get it right or just to keep the team vibe going. I mean, just one of those moments that was unfortunate, but it's understandable with being away from the game, even being an executive up top. This was a season-to-season change that just kind of fell under the whole. I'm sure if that happened to anyone, or if it did happen to another team, I don't even know how other managers have been dealing with that rule this season so far in the first 4 games. But
Yeah.
it's just one of those moments.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
one
fair.
thing I can go ahead, Zim.
Sorry, yeah, just to go from 30 to 20 seconds is already, enough of a shift, but to go from not managing for 10 years to managing, and now there's a whole new rule on top of that rule being changed. It makes sense. It's opening night. Like I already said earlier, it's April. Mistakes are going to happen. Managers make them too, just like the players. So learn it, take it in stride, and move on. Now, is it frustrating that it happened? Oh, absolutely. Like that's something that you feel like a manager, especially someone we've been sold as smart as Tony La Russa is. I guess from a secondary angle, it did look like he might have been tagged on the arm before he was in the base. But I guess that's neither here nor there. In a situation like that, where you have a chance to win a game with the tying run, right? He was the tying run at that point on second. You want to get that.
Yeah, I think he was a tying run. Yeah.
So a tying run in scoring position, you want to take every chance you can to put him there. Hopefully in the future, he's a lot quicker on the decision. And to me, it shouldn't even be a question. Just challenge it immediately. But
it's a learning experience, and he will learn from that. There's no doubt. But let's switch gears and give Tony La Russa props for something. How about on Friday night, walking Pujols to get Hendricks in the game? Hendricks wasn't lights out by any means, but the decision-making behind it, getting that third batter walked to get your closer in the game, I thought that was like really, really smart. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's something we were talking about in the offseason. How is La Russa going to manage this new rule with having to face 3 batters per pitcher? I guess we just figured it out. He's going to walk people until he gets the matchup that he wants. So I don't know if that'll happen frequently or not, but it's a Belichickian twist of the rules.
I think Tony was around before Billy.
Oh, absolutely. But it's something we're used to seeing out of, think about all the times during the NFL season, we talk about Belichick and Vrabel twisting the rules to their advantage. That's what I think we saw.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a trend. I think you're going to start to see that as a trend in this league. Gonzo, as an umpire, what do you think of the call?
I mean, talking about adapting to a new rule with the 3 batters. I mean, so he flopped on the challenge, but then he was in the right state of mind to where he knew exactly how he wanted to play that out with the bullpen matchup and everything. That's something, I think if Harp's in the chat, that's something me and Harp were talking about on Twitter last night or really early in the morning was, if that was Ricky, I think the series is 0 for 4,
Sure.
The Sox are 0 for 4. Like that was a very clutch and very bold decision by Tony to make that matchup, going to Hendricks to get, what was it, 5 or 6 outs? Was it at that point? I think it was 5.
I think it was 5.
Yeah. So, and you paid him $54 million in a situation where, yeah, you're going to have to keep the game tied in the 6th to get the lead to go into the 9th to have him save it. So, very bold decision that he made. Worked out for him. Now, who knows what this discussion would be like if that fell apart on him.
Right.
But he got us where we needed that win for 1 and 3. And that's just a really situation where he tested Hendricks out if he needed to get more than 3 outs in the 9th. Now he knows that you can extend him to get multiple innings out of him.
And he shook off some of that early season nerves, cobwebs, whatever you want to call it. So hopefully that's out of the way now. Then again, we had another crazy La Russa instance, not pinch hitting Yasmani Grandal the other night for Garcia. I think that was Saturday night in that game where I think there was runners in scoring position with the possibility to tie the game back up. I don't have a huge issue with it. I mean, I get what he was trying to go for, but at the end of the day, don't you try to put a guy who hasn't swung the bat all day in a position to maybe come in and help the team? Zim, I mean, I know you and I talked a little bit about this, but I mean, how does Grandal not come in the game there? I
mean, I guess I see both perspectives. You want to give the guy who's already been swinging it a chance to keep swinging, and I'm sorry, I didn't get a good look at Saturday night's game. This weekend's been wild, but from what I understand, Garcia hasn't been terrible. He's, not been very good, but nobody on the team really has been. From what I understand, Grandal hasn't been very good either. So, taking a step back from that, though, looking at it from a player and managerial standpoint, like, it's really hard to come into that game cold, even if you're on a hot streak, knowing that, like, you've got this at bat and only this at bat to get something done. I understand these guys are pros, but there's still a lot of pressure in that situation. So sometimes letting the guy who's in the flow of the game, who's already got his head in that right headspace and that right mentality, it's better to leave him in the position than to bring somebody cold off the bench. So I guess without knowing the whole context of everything, it's hard to really accept or criticize it. But I can go both ways on it.
Yeah. Tony La Russa knows the locker room better than we do. I thought out of all the things, I know everyone criticized the ESPN broadcast last night, and rightly so. But let's talk for a second about what they had to say about La Russa and how he's helping this locker room. And I really thought it was refreshing that when he met with these guys, he's just like, he asked them how the clubhouse is, and he wants it to stay more the same, except it's going to be Tony La Russa's leadership. And I thought that says a lot of a guy who's going to be a Hall of Fame manager coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna help you be part of this clubhouse, but it's your clubhouse. I'm just going to be the new leader behind it." I thought that took a lot to come out of Tony, and I thought that was, out of all the horrible in that broadcast, I thought that was the nice thing that they shined on it. So, Gonzo, I know I kind of went off pace a little bit there, but it kind of explains, maybe he just knows a little bit more about the situation than we do as guys that are not anywhere near the team.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with both of you there. I mean, theoretically, Grandal, yeah, he's a veteran bat who's done it before, driving in runs in off of being a pinch hitter in that situation, but he knows better than us on what he has in the lineup for that given day, and I'm going to believe in him for those situations. I couldn't tell you if there was a better bat to put in that situation, just because this is a brand new season, 4 games into it. That's just a situation you got to chalk it up, and hopefully you're right in that occasion. And he wasn't in that situation, but that's okay. He's living and learning. And as far as what the ESPN guys talked about with the clubhouse, that's even something that when Tony was hired, we were worried as Sox fans about how he's going to adapt
exactly
to the
the
players. Not so much that the game is new. It's changed a little bit, but it's still pretty much the same. Just things are kind of repeating in different ways, I guess you can say. And it seems like he's making the adaptation that he needs, and hopefully it pans out. I mean, that's still something that we have to watch and see exactly, how the season progresses and what kind of pops up that can make things interesting.
Well, it's definitely going to make it interesting for this rest of the season. We got a couple left to talk about, and then we're going to move on to our next segment after that. But we have to talk about him yanking Cease in the 5th last night. I thought it was a great move at the time, and then, of course, the reliever comes in and gives up a homer. But at the end of the day, if Cease gives up the homer, someone's going to criticize La Russa either way. So I just thought it was a great move to give him the heave-ho. He showed a lot of perseverance coming back after the start that he had, but it was definitely time to get him out. The bullpen needed to take over for that game last night. Zim, what did you think about that? And, do you think that it was the right move?
Frustrating nonetheless. Like I told you guys last night while we were talking during the game, that it feels like this whole season so far, all of 4 games, but I don't think we've had a reliever make it into, or at the very least past, the 6th inning. So kind of frustrating that with a brand new pitching coach, we can't get a little more consistency. But at the same time, Cease started off a little shaky, got really consistent. And I do think it was the right move to pull him when he was pulled. I think you're absolutely right with the, who gives up the homer doesn't really matter.
Right.
You're going to get criticized either way for it. So it's hard to say whether Cease would or would not have, but just based off of how the bats started heating up late in the game for the Angels, you can't really criticize it, in my opinion, at least in hindsight. In the moment, like I said, a little frustrating, but yeah.
Yeah. And, I think everyone agrees that Cease was the right move to get him out. I just thought Tony deserved some accolades, for getting the right thing done. And to close things out in this, before we get to the last one here, we had a great question right before this about, if we think that Cease is the real deal. And, I really think that he is. He just struggled with command. And when he gets his command together, this kid is absolutely dominant. And that's where his come in. Gonzo, you want to talk a little bit about that and helping get, Cease's control where it needs to be?
Yeah, well, to go about last night, it was kind of driving me nuts throughout the game listening to ESPN just kind of bag off of Cease's command, even though he was after that, what was it, the second inning, he really started to pick it up, and he retired, I think, the 9 out of the next 11 batters that he faced, and he was really getting into his groove. And then into that 5th inning, it was the right move to pull him, I believe. It's a tough situation because you can't keep him in there as he is grooving, but the pitch count's getting high. I think it was the right move to pull him. And again, that could have been any reliever. Hoyer's a good pitcher. He showed it, previously in the first 2 games, and that's just a situation you chalk it up to the Angels of timely hitting. And when it comes to that question by Santiago, I can't believe it's Cordera. Sorry if I mixed up your name. It's a good question. I would say Cease, unlike Rodon, Kopech, last year he was making that progression that you wanted to see. Still struggling with his command due to his mechanics. In spring training, it's spring training, so it's really hard to tell exactly how much progression he's making. But with the stuff that he was showing, it was amazing to see. He had 5 innings, 11 strikeouts in that last game. First game of the season, Sunday Night Baseball versus Ohtani. You can see his nerves were going early on, but his command, his stuff was pretty good last night. Even when his command was a little shaky in the beginning, I still liked the movement on his pitches. The slider was missing out and away in the beginning, but he was starting to really tune in onto his slider later in the game. That's just something you're gonna have to watch and see how he, progresses from here on out. But I actually really enjoy Cease, and I'm expecting big things from him. I'm just trying to think of anything if I missed out on anything, but he's one of those prospects at the moment that I am really enjoying watching his progression.
Well, and I will say that you bring up a really good point about him going, toe to toe with Ohtani, ESPN's latest West Coast darling, and basically stood up to him and said, I can do this too. It was a rough start, but that was a really good point you brought up right there. And now I'm going to bring this whole thing full circle with the final little thought in La Russa's locker here. And that is Moncada batting cleanup tonight. These super fun lineup things that we've been dealing with. Again, for those of you who haven't seen this whole lineup, it's interesting. Take a look at it. We've talked about most of it already, but Yoan Moncada in the cleanup spot. I don't really see him as a cleanup hitter. He's, I don't know. He's just not a cleanup guy to me. He's a 2 or a 5 or a 6 kind of guy to me. I do see what I think La Russa is trying to do here in mixing up the lineup, because some of these bats are a little cold to start the season, which we didn't expect at all. Sometimes we talked about it at length the last 2 weeks that we expected the offense to be the strength of this team. But, sometimes guys really just need to shake the rust loose by doing uncharacteristic things for themselves, and mixing up the lineup's a good way to do that. But what do you guys think about it?
I think it's going to work, man, and I'm going to tell you why. I think I know what Tony La Russa is doing. I actually sent out a tweet from our South Burb Hitman account that Moncada batting cleanup tonight might not be as crazy as you think. He's got a career 667 average against Justice Sheffield, who's pitching tonight. Granted, it's only 2 for 3 with 2 singles and a strikeout, but he's got a history against this guy. He's done well against him in the past. you got to imagine that he's trying to not only shake things up, but he probably saw that, Moncada had a good game against him in 2019. So maybe that's what's going through Tony's head tonight. I think it's going to pay off. Moncada, I have a feeling he's going to wake up tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, I think it's just a situation that he's just testing it out. I mean, I do see the potential of him being in that position at some point or another, in the upcoming years. Interesting to do it now, especially when he's putting that pressure onto himself to overproduce himself really at the moment, because he had a rough series in Anaheim, and you kind of saw it in Vaughn too. I mean, I know that there's a difference between Moncada being his 4th year and Vaughn being a rookie, but both of them were putting the pressure on themselves, and they were just swinging at, pitches that were out of the zone and really not their pitches to begin with. And can I see it, working tonight? Absolutely. At least I hope so. But I don't have a big deal with it. It's just one of those things where we'll have to see and chalk it up good or bad. But if
no
that's
doubt,
going to be,
Gonzo.
if he's going to be the MVP, that people were thinking that we were going to get out of him this year, you want to put him in that position to test him and to see how he takes off with it.
No doubt, man. And I got to say, we've got a tweet here from Sox on 35th showing us tonight's lineup. So let's take a look at it quickly. As we mentioned, Madrigal, followed by Robert. You got Abreu at 3rd, Moncada at cleanup, Mercedes batting 5th, followed by Grandal, Garcia, Vaughn, and surprise in right field tonight, Billy Hamilton, and of course Carlos Rodon taking the mound. Billy Hamilton is fast, and he's been swinging. I feel like he's starting to get in a rhythm a little bit. So I like that Tony's playing him tonight. What do you think, Ken?
He was swinging. I don't want to say a hot bat, but he was making some good contact. What was it, last night? And I know he got a couple of shots in a couple other games. It seems like the more pitches he's the more pitches he's seeing, though, he is really starting to square him up. And sooner or later, one of these shots is going to land. Gonzo, take it.
Yeah. From what I saw from Billy last night, first 2 at-bats, I think he had 2 at-bats versus Ohtani. And Ohtani, for some reason, just kept on with the same game plan with him and throwing fastballs on the outer half of the plate. And Billy just threw his hand at it and hit it to the opposite field. And, there was just some, easy hitting there for him. So we'll have to definitely see how, with the game plan, the scouting report changes on him, how he's going to handle it. But what I actually liked a little bit more than his hitting was his base running last night, his base stealing. I mean, we know how good his speed was, but that's what we really needed, with some spark in that lineup to get the guys going. And that's exactly what we want out of him, is that speed.
That's why I think a lot of people keep telling me that they think Hamilton's going to get cut once Engel comes back. But I think he's going to be that pinch runner guy that they're going to play him from time to time. You need that speed. And every Tony La Russa team ever that I can remember has that speedster that can come in and steal a bag. So I think that's Billy Hamilton for this team. I don't think he's going anywhere. Yeah. But, gentlemen, we walked through La Russa's locker. Lots of decisions to talk about. We'll see. Hopefully we don't have this much to talk about next week, but I have a feeling we probably will. But we're going to move on to a segment where we talk about somebody that stunk, somebody that was not very good, and we like to call it our Adam Dud of the week.
You suck.
Yes, there was a lot that sucked this week. Let's just be honest. I don't want to say this week, but the last 4 games. The defense. Let's just spotlight on the defense, guys. We all get to pick who our Adam Dud of the week is specifically. But I think if we had to do an overall, let's just say it's probably the defense. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's only really what only aspect of this segment of the week I really want to focus on is the defense. And I don't, myself, I'm not going to specifically go on one person. I'm just going to go defense as a whole here. First off, I think it was the first game with Eaton, or maybe it was the second game. But in that game, you just see him drifting. I mean, the basics is run to us, get your ass back, that first step back, go to a spot. What the fuck is he drifting for? In the first fly ball to him, he's just drifting and then loses the ball in the lights, and he gives up 2 runs with 2 outs.
There's a lot of outfield candidates for this.
The second one, he just got a snow cone catch, and by the grace of God, I was just just caught me off. I just couldn't believe it. Happy that he had the snow cone. But that was
Eden had 2 horrible plays. One of them he made the snowball catch on. But what about our center fielder, guys? I think we got to talk a little bit about Luis Robert and what's probably going to be all over the not top 10 for as long as you can remember. Easy pop-up. He called off Tim Anderson and decided, no, I got it. And then I'm going to take a doinker right off the dome. Let's watch this. Look at this. Oh, I got it. Doink.
The worst part might be what a good beat Anderson had on it, too. He was right there for it and ready. And, you're taught as a center fielder not to call him off unless you 100% know you have it. And he did not 100% have it.
I got it. No, you don't. Sorry, Luis. Oh,
yeah, he overran it. That's funny. That's a little league play. He overran it. He went to his spot and then went, oh shit, I need to be a step further back.
Yeah, I know. It's that was rough defensively. We're getting a lot of calls in the chat to talk about one specific batter, and I think it's warranted. It's the guy who's batting cleanup tonight, gentlemen. Harp in the chat room. Let's see where it is. Yeah, Moncada, dud of the week. Moncada with 5 strikeouts. Yep, and he's just not. He does not look good. Earlier, Harp said he looks like COVID Moncada from last year, and I would agree. He's set the team back in a lot of bad positions, throughout this opening series, which does kind of make it a little bit of a head scratcher that he's DHing tonight. But I mentioned the high batting average he has against the starter. But man, guys, Moncada really put this team in a hole this week. A lot of the offense did. Nobody was really hitting, but those 5 strikeouts were huge, not even making contact. Gonzo, thoughts on what's going on with Moncada?
Moncada, I mean, I said it before. I just think he's putting more pressure than he needs to on himself. And just in general, the whole team is doing that. Well, not the whole team, but the majority of the team in situations where they need to drive, runs across. I mean, you saw the graphic last night, 0 for 19 runners in scoring
position.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a situation where he's just trying to overdo it himself, and it's a vibe. Once you get into that funk, you got to do something to get out of that funk. And I thought it was going to happen with that bunt that they pulled off to get the spark going with the team, which it kind of did with the pitcher throwing in the ball over the third baseman. Very interesting situation there that we scored. What was that? 4 runs with no hits involved.
0 hits.
Yeah.
0 earned runs. No RBIs.
It looked like the whatever you want to call it, the baseball gods were finally like, oh, these guys have all these unearned runs against them to start the year. Maybe we're going to toss them a few, but then we still couldn't. We still couldn't win the game.
Yeah, I will say there is one highlight that came out of Yoan Moncada's 0 for 5 strikeout performance, and that is I learned a new baseball term. I've never actually heard this before. We have the good old golden sombrero when you get 4. They call it a platinum sombrero when you get 5, but what I like, it's more affectionately called the Olympic rings.
The Olympic rings. Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
It makes perfect sense. I couldn't help but that's what I was chuckling at while you were talking over there, Joe. I had to look it up because I was like, there's got to be a name for this. Anyway. The 4 unearned runs and
Yeah,
still losing the game. That's ridiculous too. This team has already done some really, really special things in the very, very wrong way to start the season. So
yeah. Look
again,
at this. Look at Santiago's. Look at Santiago's comment.
Yeah, that's 0 for 19 as a team with one individual going 0 for 3 is unacceptable to say the least. One thing I did want to mention about last night's game is those 4 unearned runs. That's a game, and I know this isn't a different team. This is the team that we have, but that's a game that the 0-5 team wins. And that's the difference between a championship club and what this team currently is. And it's the difference between what this team is currently doing and what they need to do in order to win. And that's the problem right now is we thought La Russa was going to give them that mentality. And I'm not saying it's time to panic. We're only 4 games in. But this was the edge that we were led to believe they were going to have this year, was that same edge that 0-5 team had. When they needed to get a win, they managed to get it. And last night was a game that they needed to win, and they couldn't get it done. So it's a little disheartening when we've been told so much through the whole offseason, and that's the kind of performance we get, especially in a game that was winnable, even with everything working against you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It is. I'm not as worried as you are, Zim, but at the same time, it's a worthy problem. It's something we got to think about. So at the end of the day, these guys have a lot of baseball left to play. So let's just let them play.
I see a lot of that 0-5 talk on Twitter with what you're talking about, Zim. I don't really agree with that theory just because that 0-5 team got hot the last 2 weeks of the season. And this is a team that still needs to materialize and get to that point. And as rough as a game the series has been, or the series in general, Angels were doing some very similar, or they had very similar mistakes that we had. Really a major difference was the timely hitting that they had. So that's just my little take on that.
It's the truth. And last thing we're going to touch on before we get out of here is Collins and Vaughn. I've been really disappointed by them in this opening series. And I know it's a lot of baseball left, but those guys, they're going to get in a rhythm. So I'm not overly worried, but we'll see what happens. But guys, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here with our Put It on the Board segment. And we'll get there in just a second. Before we get rolling here, but Gonzo, I wanted to ask the chat room, real quick chat room, how are you guys feeling about this offense as a whole? Harp's got a great comment here saying, the club is young and they're still learning, and that's the truth. Gonzo, you can speak for it specifically. As an umpire, you see a lot of these different teams play. Obviously, you're not umpiring at this level, but how the team come together as a whole, kind of overcome something like this. There's a lot of chirping at the umpires, and I know it was warranted last night, but these frustrations can be taken out somewhere differently. And I'm just curious what your take is on all that.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm watching the game last night, as an umpire, I haven't umpired at that level, but I've, done all the way up to Division III. And it's hard to criticize the umpires. Where I'm coming from. I totally get it because it was very evident last night, especially when the ESPN broadcast, they put it out there that the home plate umpire, this was his first season. And it kind of just made a little bit more sense once you got that little bit of information to see how he's adjusting to that. Because, if it's his first season, I mean, he wasn't even here for the whole COVID shortened season. All these crews are still getting into it and really focusing on their zones.
Yeah,
it was very tough. And watching our relief pitchers try to attack Mike Trout, and the issue is I don't watch a lot of West Coast games, so I didn't really realize.
Tough. We'll touch on that a little later, but yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
I didn't get to I didn't realize it till watching the series, the treatment that Mike Trout gets as a superstar for being the face of the sport. the treatment that he gets when he's in the box, it's kind of crazy. And when we go back to that Cease conversation, I mean, imagine being Cease when you got, what was it, a runner or two on, and then you have to face Mike Trout, and you have to fight past him getting the treatment for his zone. And when all you're basically throwing is a fastball, because your slider in the beginning is, you didn't have it. It's dipping out of the zone. Not even challenge. A-Rod was saying it's not even challengeable. But you have to you have to be that much better with your fastball, or to mix something up with your motion to really deceive your one pitch that you're throwing in the game. And you kind of saw in the series that Grandal, the veteran that he is, he knows the small things that he can do to throw the timing off of Trout by, being like, oh shit, who was that? Evan Marshall. He twitched, and then he goes out, he calls time, goes out there, has a conversation with him, comes back, and Marshall strikes him out. It's the small things that's the good thing about having these veterans is, they know the little things that can affect a game. And especially when they've been there before and have rings. I think there's only 3 people on the roster that have rings. So this is a very this is a team that's been there. A couple people have been there.
They'll get there. These young guys will get there. I'm confident in that. And let's hop into our next segment, guys. It's who we thought had a killer first 4 days of the season. There wasn't a lot of them, but it's pretty clear. But let's go ahead and go into our Put It on the Board segment.
Ball hit deep. Way back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes.
That's right. There wasn't a whole lot of fireworks this last week, but let's be honest, nobody had a better week than Yermin Mercedes, starting the season 8 for 8, I think. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Gonzo, that's my pick. Who you got as your Put It on the Board player? It's hard to pick anyone beside him, right?
Say that again. You kind of your connection was off there for me.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I had Mercedes as my player of Put It on the Board player of the week. I said it's hard to pick against him. Would you agree? Do you have anybody else?
Yeah, for this upcoming week, I mean, it's very hard to go against Mercedes.
No, I mean last our player the last 4 days, our Put It on the Board player of the week.
Yeah, because I chose Timmy, and Timmy.
Well, that's our pick. That's our pick to click. We're talking about our who's going to win our Put It on the Board player of the last week.
Did I have Cease? I think I named a couple people from last week that I was watching. I think it was Crochet, Kopech, and Cease, and it was. I mean, it's hard to really fathom against.
Those were your picks to click. So we're talking like who we're voting for right now over the last 4 games, who we thought was the Put It on the Board player of the week.
I mean, Mercedes. Yeah, I'll have to agree with that in the end. I was trying to really think of someone that might have been a little bit out there that was, low key, significant than Mercedes, but he was making history, so I can't argue against that.
It's hard to argue history, isn't it, Zim?
It is, but I think I've got one guy who can, and only one. But Michael Kopech. He made his return to the mound for the first time in, what was it, 2 years?
Yeah.
And he looked good. He looked like he's comfortable and confident, and like he's still got that fireball that we expected to see from him. It was awesome.
You can argue that he looked good on the mound, but he didn't look good in real life.
That is 100% accurate. I don't know what that facial hair and head hair combination is, but it's a problem.
We put up a poll on South Burbs Hitmen on Twitter with like 4 options. It said he looks sexy, he looks, classy, he looks creepy, and then Candy Van Creepy actually came back and won by 1% over sexy. So, it's a very torn group of people. Either you either love it or you hate it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I know it's the style, the beard and the man bun, but some guys can pull it off and some guys can't. Maybe it's just because he was wearing the hat, but it was less than appealing.
Did Gonzo like the look?
I think I was just used to him in that look because I was, I saw quite a few of his recovery videos with him training in the off season. He was always repping the man bun, so I think I was just used to seeing that on him. But I can't judge against it because he was just absolutely filthy, with his stuff. So he's getting out. So what is working for him?
His hat and on the field too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, of course, it looks like Mercedes / Kopech are put it on the board players of the week. Zim, do you have a drop?
Put it on the board!
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But let's move on. So now we're going to get to our results of our picks to click from the last 4 games. I'll lead off with myself since I'm very disappointed. I picked Vaughn to be my pick to click. It was far from it, so I give myself a big thumbs down on that one. I did not succeed. Zim, who was your pick to click for week 1?
So I had Liam Hendricks, and I firmly believe that if the White Sox had gone into the bottom of the 9th with a lead last night, I would have hit on my pick to click. I predicted him with 5 strikeouts and 2 saves. He came up with 2 strikeouts and 1 save. So I made it almost halfway there, I think. That's got to count for something, right? But I think Gonzo tops us both, unless last night did anything to derail that.
No, he had a rough batting average. Timmy did, but he did have the clutch home run in game 2 for the win when he extended that lead for Hendricks he had a rough, his pitch count was up in the 30s going for those 5 outs. So that extending that lead really helped him, especially when he gave up that 2-run bomb. I think it was to Ohtani. I think it was Ohtani. Was I right there, bro? With Ohtani?
Yep.
Yeah. Because it was a 4-run lead that trimmed down to 2. So yeah, without that 2-run bomb, it could have been a different game. So I think that was a win for me.
Just to be clear, your guys were Tim Anderson and who else?
I had Vaughn.
Yeah, Vaughn.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So congratulations, Gonzo. You are in the lead right now. 1-0. Now we get to make our picks to click for this upcoming week. And Gonzo, since you won, you can get first dibs.
Okay, I like that. Winner takes the ball. I appreciate that, Joe.
Sure thing.
I'm going to let's see. They have. Let me do some quick math here. I think they're
Seattle.
They got 2 lefties versus Seattle series, and they have to face 2 lefties as well.
Yeah, a lot of
Kansas and the Kansas City home series. So that's 4 lefties, and with 6 games this week, I'm gonna take Jose Abreu versus the lefty. That's gonna be my pick to click.
I like it. He did have a grand slam this week.
Yes, he did.
Zim is upset because he was going to pick Abreu. Zim, who are you going to take instead? I'm going to put you right on the spot.
Well, you know what? No, screw it. Ride the hot hand. Yermin Mercedes, book it. I'm going to say he hits 2 more home runs and 5 more RBIs. I think he's got it in him. He got hot last spring, before all the COVID stuff hit. We were all talking about how, the Yerminator just mashes. And he's getting hot right now. So I'm going to say forget last night's performance, and he'll be fine after that.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to go off the deep end because why the hell not? I'm going to go bold. I'm going to go with our cleanup hitter tonight. I'm going to go with Yoan Moncada as my pick to click in the upcoming week. The boy's going to mash. I feel that turning around. The wheels are turning. I think it starts tonight, so I'm going to go with Yoan Moncada. I think he's going to have at least one home run this week. I think he's easily going to hit probably close to 300, and I think he's going to have about 5 RBI this week. So that's my prediction for my pick to click. Yoan Moncada. Yes, Wrath of Raider. We all wish Eloy was healthy. And Harp's got a great question here. Before we leave, any idea when Adam Engel will return? Well, we had Chuck Garfien on the show for our premiere episode, which was 2 weeks ago, and he said that Adam Engel was 2 to 3 weeks away. So I would imagine another week or so we should be seeing Engel returning back to the lineup. I'd say at a max 2 weeks. So I think you'll see him before the end of April, at least in my opinion. That's what Chuck said, right, guys?
He did, yeah. I just want to piggyback on what Gonzo was saying earlier, too, though, that La Russa is a more precautious guy when it comes to those injuries and whatnot. So I would expect probably not this week or next week, but maybe the week after.
Yeah, he's close. He's getting close, and that defense is going to help us because we surely need it right now.
But
that's our picks.
Especially this early in the year, there's no need to push him back too soon. So, sorry, Joe, I interrupted. Go ahead, finish us off on this segment.
No, you're good. I was just going to say we'll get out of our put it on the board segment. I mean, those are essentially our guys to watch for the week. The only thing I wanted to call out before we wrap it is that you got Lance Lynn pitching the home opener on Thursday, at least tentatively, barring weather. I think Lance Lynn's going to have a fun opener at home, taking in the crowd for the first time. I expect big things from him. So he's my player to watch for the week as well. Do you guys have a player to watch before we get out of here?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. Guys to watch tonight, Rodon. How is he going to go with tonight's matchup? He had a really hot spring. Can he take it and run with it with the, 5th position in our rotation? As well as Keuchel for game 3. I want to see if he bounces back from his performance. And then the Kansas City series on Saturday might be the game of the week that Joe's going to, but Cease, let's see if he can continue with his stuff and bounce back from his performance, at least from the early performance of the last night. And also other guys I want to mention would be how Crochet and Kopech does when we need them, and for the setup role. And I want to throw this name out there. This might be the most important name because I like watching him so far in the couple performances he's been out there. But another bullpen arm, Matt Foster. I thought he's been really impressive.
Yeah,
I know he gave up the walk-off last night.
Yeah,
that was an interesting situation we could have talked about, but that's an arm that I liked last year and want to continue to see how he develops.
I love it. Zim, before we get out of this, go ahead.
I wanted to say I like all the names you threw out. I think Foster's good. Personally, I'm a little more interested in Kopech and Crochet. Just they're the young guys, but no, I like every name you put out there. I'm going to be watching them this week for sure.
I love it. And before we get to our next segment, everybody, we're going to step away for a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Guys, it's Peggy Kaczynski. I retired early from my 20-something career as a sportscaster, covering the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the Cubs, the White Sox, and really every other college and high school team in Chicago. So what do you do after that? Well, you start a podcast. That's what I did with my teenage son, Jason. And the result is The Sportscaster and Her Son. Yes, I'm the baby boomer, a mom. We don't get along. We don't have a lot in common, but we both share a love for sports. And we always have great sports conversation. Even better, our guests in the interviews. So come check us out. We're on Podbean and the Barroom Network, or really wherever you get your audio. The Sportscaster and Her Son podcast. See you there.
And welcome back to South Burbs Hitmen. Also coming up tonight on the Barroom Network, following us at 10 p.m. Central Time, Dan and Aldo bare their souls. They will be talking about the Sam Darnold trade. He's going from New York to Carolina. What does that mean for the Bears? Tune in tonight. Listen to Dan and Aldo bare their souls to find out. Same channel, 10 p.m. tonight. So that's going to be fun, guys.
I listen the next morning, so sorry. Hey, I just got to say, be prepared to stay up late if you want to listen, because there's always good stuff right up to the end of the show.
I set you guys up. I gave you the set. You were ready to spike it, and it just sailed right over your heads.
It was more like a Roger Federer serve, where that thing just went whizzing by me about 120 miles an hour, and I was not ready for it.
That's all right. But don't miss out on Dan and Aldo bare their souls. That's going to be great. And, of course, the sportscaster and her son, Peggy Kaczynski. Great stuff. All on the Barroom Network. Make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube or if you're on your podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Just subscribe to our podcast feed at the Barroom Network as well. Lots of great stuff. Lots of great shows. Check it all out. But we are back. And now, guys, we get to talk about the upcoming week. Our first game of the week starting 30 minutes from now. But this is what we like to call White Sox Weekly. Here we are with White Sox Weekly, the week coming up for the White Sox. And, of course, here we are, still on the West Coast. We get Seattle, and then we come home for the Royals. So let's take a look at our schedule for the upcoming week here. Look at that. You got all these late games. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But you got the Mariners, for 3. You got an afternoon game coming up on, I don't even know what today is. That's Wednesday. Then they come home for the opener. You get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the Royals. That'll be nice to have some Central Time games. And then, we'll talk about it a little bit more next week on the show. But then we could take on the Indians. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just happy that we are out of this West Coast BS. Are you guys sick of these West Coast game starts? I mean, they got to come up with something better here. For opening weekend, you have all these games starting like really late with these great matchups. And then now tonight, you get a weeknight game on a Monday. It starts at 9 o'clock Central Time, and it's 7 o'clock out there. I mean, what is the league doing? Are you guys sick of this West Coast BS? Because I know I am. Zim, I'll throw it to you first because you're in a different time zone than us, but you're still dealing with the same thing we are.
Yeah, I'll probably not watch tonight's game, honestly. It's 8 o'clock on a Monday night. No, I'm just – no. Sorry. I already did that twice last week, and it was miserable trying to get up for work the next morning. I'll probably catch the condensed game on my lunch break or something tomorrow. It's frustrating, and on top of it, it feels like the Sox never play well out there. So what's the point in staying up 4 hours later just to watch them get walked off on, Well,
that's what I've done the last couple of nights, and it makes it even more infuriating because you're so invested in this team. And then you stay up and they have a lead and they blow it. It's just, it hits you right in the feels. Gonzo, what do you think about this West Coast BS?
The first couple of games I was actually enjoying it, waiting to watch it at night. But then after I kind of feel the after effects of watching all 4 games late at night, now I'm feeling dead and sluggish, and I have to continue to do this for the next 3 days. And I was really hoping after the show I would just go to the gym, but then I'm like, shit, the Sox play at 9 o'clock. It's like, shit, I'm staying home. I'm just gonna, be miserable and watch the game because I cannot watch it. I'm such a diehard that I'm gonna watch every pitch. And last week when we brought up that Rodon was probably gonna be pitching during our podcast, but I'm like, shit, it's gonna be 9 o'clock start. Like, no, that's gonna be right after the show. So we're gonna actually. At least I know you guys can put it on in your background, but for me, like, I got no TV down here, so I was going to be missing the game. But I'm like, you know what? Now I actually get to watch the game, unless we go into overtime over here. But it's kind of miserable. But it'll be nice to get out of the West Coast because we only see the West Coast. I feel like during the middle of the season, like opening up the season out in the West Coast is pretty shitty.
I'm just happy that they're getting it out of the way. And I know that I haven't looked at the schedule for when they go back. I'm just happy they're coming to Central Time again. And gentlemen, they they face 4 lefties this week. Let's take a look at the probable starters for these games. There's some interesting matchups coming up this week, and I tell you what, I'm looking forward to tonight. Carlos Rodon pitching on the mound tonight, coming back to it for us, going against Justice Sheffield. Of course, Rodon. I always call him Rodon, but I don't even know which is the correct pronunciation. I got to figure that out. But I call him Carlos Rodon. He's a guy that he's got a lot to prove. I'm excited to see what he's going to put on the mound tonight. They got a lefty in Sheffield that I'm sure they're going to have some fun with. I should probably make a bet on this game before it starts, but we'll talk about that later. What do you think of? I'll let you take this one for tomorrow, Zim. So you got our boy Gio. What are you thinking about tomorrow's game?
Oh, I'm sorry. You broke up just for a second there. So tonight's game or tomorrow's game?
I was tossing it to you for tomorrow.
For tomorrow. So tomorrow, yeah, righty versus lefty. I expect to see a lineup at least pretty similar to what we've got for tonight, which if we haven't talked about tonight's lineup enough, another note on it. We got 5 righties and 4 switch hitters, no true lefties in the lineup. So I fully expect to see something like that when we face lefties this year, in order to combat, when the opponent comes in with a righty later in the game, which they'll inevitably do. But I don't know. I like the chances for both tonight and tomorrow, as the White Sox haven't lost to a left-handed starter, excuse me. They haven't lost to a left-handed starter since 2019. So
regardless, it's a pretty good stat.
Yeah, I think they've got a good shot. And Giolito had that stellar first performance up until, he got shaky towards the end, but he'll be fine. He will. He's our ace. He's our ace. We can count.
He's our ace in the hole, no doubt. Gonzo, let's talk a little bit about Wednesday's game. Why don't you take a look at that matchup? Of course, you've got your buddy, my fantasy pick over yours, Dallas Keuchel starting that game. What are you thinking about for Wednesday?
Hey, I'm expecting a wild game, more so wild on Wednesday than tonight, just because I don't know what to expect out of Justin Dunn. Haven't seen him too much at all. Don't really know. Honestly, I don't really know too much about him. So I'm just expecting that to be a little bit more wilder than tonight's game with Sheffield. Although he is a righty, so perhaps maybe. Even with the inexperience of a righty, I still think that might be a little bit more of a crazy game.
I'm with you. I think that's going to be the tough game in this series, is getting that right-hander.
That's what I'm feeling too. And even, Tuesday's game with James Paxton, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's an interesting veteran because when he's healthy, he's pretty on his game. And he was with Tampa Bay, right, last year? Or was it Yankees? I think he was on the Yankees.
Not off the top of my head.
I believe he was with the Yankees last season, and he was a free agent this offseason. He goes back to Seattle, where he's familiar. If he's healthy, it's going to be an interesting game. But I'm liking. I mean, it's Giolito, so I'm still liking the odds of that game. I'm expecting 2 out of 3 for this series, and let's just hope that they don't disappoint us. But this should be a series they get back on track.
Yeah, no doubt. I think they're going to get back on track. I'll go through the other ones quickly since we're approaching the end of the week anyway. But, of course, opening night, we've got Lance opening day at home, Lance Lynn and Brad Keller. Keller got roughed up on opening day. I think it says it right there. He gave up 6 earned runs on 9 hits in an inning and a third. I think we're going to have a field day at home in that park. I think you're going to see 2 or 3 home runs in that game just from the Sox. Lance Lynn, he looked good last week. Of course, he's got those strikeouts. He was the best looking out of all our starters, I think, so far. I wouldn't say Gio looked bad, but I do think Lance Lynn looked great. I think he's going to be great at home. And then let's move into Friday and Saturday. I'm sorry, they're off Friday. There is nobody here right now for Saturday, but you imagine after Lance Lynn, what are we looking at? Cease Gonzo, most likely?
Well, I was just going to say, wait, Elder, can you go back up? to that first game, because I know on ESPN they had a different matchup for the first game. They had Lynn versus Mike Minor, the lefty.
This is directly from the White Sox website, so I think the Sox
Yeah.
would probably
But the
be more.
ESPN was solid on when I was checking them last week before the week started, and they were right on the matchup. So I'll be interested to see who exactly is going to be the matchups.
That
for
makes
sure.
a big difference. Keller versus Minor.
Yeah, because what I saw, and this is ESPN, so I don't want to take anything from the White Sox website here, but ESPN had Mike Minor, the lefty, for Thursday. For Saturday, they had Singer versus Cease. And then for Sunday, they had Duffy versus Rodon. And I know, wait, Aldo, if you scroll down, Aldo, did they have the matchups for the rest for Saturday, Sunday?
They do not. They're not listed yet. They don't list them quite
so
out
this
that far.
will be. Oh man, I wish I knew exactly how it's going to be, but
It's probably Cease, but we'll see.
If ESPN is right here, I think they're still going to bang up on Minor. If it's Minor, definitely, because Minor's a lefty. And Keller's a righty, so we'll see who gets thrown out there. I still think, regardless of whoever it is, Lynn, that should be a good game with Lynn, and then Cease, Singer. That'll be a very interesting game because Singer, the righty from Kansas City, is quite the young player. I think Chuck actually brought him up in the show with us with how prominent Kansas City is of him. We were able to get to him late in the game last time we faced him last year in Kansas City, so we'll see exactly, who shows up in that game. And then Sunday, if it's Rodon and Duffy, two southpaws, Duffy is inconsistent. He can be on or he can be off his game. And we'll just have to wait and see how he looks on Sunday.
Yep, there's going to be a lot of offense this week, though. I'm excited to see that. Knock on wood. I'll knock on wood for real. But as we get out of White Sox Weekly, we have some breaking news. We interrupt this program for breaking ballroom news. That's right. We have some breaking news coming in. And according to ESPN, Coors Field in Colorado is expected to host the 2021 MLB All-Star Game.
I'm going to the All-Star Game. I'm going to the All-Star Game. There's no way I'm missing it. There's no way I'm missing it.
Well, there you go. Zim is going to be in town. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of White Sox there for him to be our ears to the ground. But let's talk quickly. Of course, this week the news came out about the game being pulled from Georgia, about the MLB pulled it because of their changes in voting laws. Now it looks like Coors Field is going to be the place to hold it. It's only going to be the second time they've hosted the Midsummer Classic. American League beat the National League 13-8 at Coors in 1998. That was the last time. So this will be interesting. Get that Rocky Mountain air and hopefully a boatload of White Sox down there. So that's some breaking news. I'm kind of shocked that's where they chose, to be honest with you, Zim.
I am floored. That is the last place I would have expected it to be, honestly, especially considering what our current level of restrictions are with COVID and everything. I would think that someplace like Texas, where they can maximize their profits by selling as many tickets as possible, due to the fact that they're at full capacity, and the Rockies are only at 21,000 out of a possible, I want to say 51-ish thousand.
Yeah. I
believe it's 50,400, something strange like that. But this ballpark has been updated a lot since that 98 All-Star game. And this is going to be a huge chance to show off not just this ballpark, but this city to a lot of people. Denver's a huge up and coming place in the country. Aaron Gordon had nothing but good things to say after getting traded here from Orlando a couple weeks ago, getting traded to the Nuggets. I know that's a different sport, but he is so excited to be here. I am so excited to see the All-Star game come here. I am so excited that my hometown, current hometown, gets to be a part of such an incredible event while I'm actually going to be around to see it. So,
yeah, it's going to be something else. It's definitely unprecedented. Of course, the Braves had to get a special patch made to cover up the All-Star game patch that's on their jerseys. It's just, we live in crazy times, boys.
The worst part is I don't think anybody from the Rockies will actually make the All-Star game this year.
You never know.
Trevor Story could, but with the rest of the team being so bad, he's not going to get a lot of national attention. And that's something that, unfortunately, you need in order to make the All-Star game in today's day and age.
That's right, guys. So let's get out of let's get out of White Sox Weekly. And then we're going to get into our hot topic conversation of the week. And that's what we like to call our guaranteed take. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about our guaranteed talk conversation of the week. Guaranteed take, sorry. And this week, guys, the hot question is Yermin Mercedes the catalyst for this offense? Steven Zimmerman, I know you're fired up about this. What is the answer?
Well, here's one thing that I don't know if a lot of people watching the show have seen yet, but I was ecstatic to open up the MLB app and see this. But Yermin Mercedes is our player of the week in the American League.
Yeah, baby.
It doesn't get much hotter than that. But adding to that, is he the catalyst for this offense? You know, it really seems like he might be. This team, the offense did well the 2 nights that he did well. And this offense was terrible the 2 nights that he wasn't really involved in it. You know, last night going over. Did he go over? I'm pretty sure he went over last night.
Oh, he got a
base hit.
I'm sure he got a base hit.
Okay. I saw
he ran it out too, scrappy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because they called him out and we had to take care of that. That's right. But yeah, the first night he wasn't even in the game. And we also what the offense looked like in that first game. So yeah, it kind of seems like when Mercedes is hot, the team is hot. I don't know. What do you guys think about all that?
I think he Gonzo, you're up, my friend.
Sorry to cut you off there, but I just say I think, I don't think, this is kind of obvious answer, but this game's full of emotions. And when you lose a player like Eloy, it kind of sets the team down a little bit. And I know they're kind of pushing the vibes of next man up, but for, our first show, we were kind of, the impersonation that Mercedes might make the team, might not make it. And for him to just make history, this could be the energy, that vibe and energy the team needs to propel themselves and to give really a wake-up call to our veterans, get them in the groove again and bring this team to where we need them to be. Catalyst, yeah, hopefully he can keep it going, and he could be that, because we thought that Collins was going to be that catalyst to this offense coming out of spring training, and if Mercedes is going to be that bad for us, let's ride this energy out.
Yeah, I think you got to ride out the hot streak. I think LaRussa's smart in letting him do that. But I do think he's kind of right now, he's the straw that stirs the drink here in Chicago. Right now, no one else is hitting a little bit besides Abreu. It's kind of mixing in and out of who's going to be hitting around him. But just imagine this: once everyone else starts hitting, and if Mercedes can stay on this hot streak, things are looking really good. So I think he is the catalyst right now.
Yeah, wholeheartedly believe and agree with you, Joe. And this is crazy that we are getting even the low production that we're getting. We're getting it without our major bats, really, with TA and Abreu. Their averages have been low. They've had big timely hits at times, but not nearly enough of the production that we were expecting to be in the season with their at-bats and game situations. Even last night, Jose's last 2 at-bats, he had runners in scoring position, and he just, with that 6'10" pitcher, I forgot the dude's name, but he was driving that sinker down, and Abreu just wasn't getting there with his hands. And
that was a sick pitch, though. That was nasty.
Yeah, Yeah, and it's tough because with a really tall pitcher like that, driving that sinker down, you just really want to chase it. Very tough pitch to turn your hands on and drive that ball and out of the infield. I forgot who the last at bat who he was facing, but again he was battling it off. God, who was that? Was that Iglesias, the closer?
Yeah,
in the last
I think
at-bat?
it was. Yeah, it was.
I think that, he was battling with Abreu with a slider fastball, and then he started throwing some changeups at him. When he was battling him, and Jose was early on them and tearing them down the line, and then he eventually got him with I think it was a fastball down and away. Maybe it was a slider, but in those moments, you're just sitting there praying, like, "Come on, Jose, come on, get that, contact. All we need is contact," and he couldn't do it. So disappointing in those moments with our veterans.
It's all just coming together at once. And, I think it's going to click. And when it clicks, this team is going to take off. So that's what we say for White Sox fans. We said at the top of the show, we say going forward, be patient. Think good things are coming. 10 minutes from now, you got a game starting. So I'm fired up about that. And before we get out of here, gents, we talked about it last week. We teased it last week. We're gonna do a segment today that we're gonna try to carry throughout the season, and it's a segment we like to call the Craft Beer of the Week segment. We like, what's a good beer that you guys like? Crack it open, drink it during the ball game, and we have a lot of different scales we can talk about for how we're going to grade these things. But before we do, chat room, what is your favorite craft beer at the moment? So if you're in the chat, let us know what kind of beer you're drinking. What do you like? It doesn't even have to be a craft beer. It can just be regular beer. What's your go-to? What's your game drink? So let us know in the chat. We're going to start on our end with a little bit because all the guys got some beverages ready to go. They've been chilling on the side. Gonzo already started. He's sipping out of the can. What do you got, Gonzo? Talk a little bit about it. And then I'm going to real quick say how we're going to rate these things. We came up with a way to do this according to our little game plan. We're going to rate it on its flavor, its bitterness, chuggability, which of course is very important, and then presentation, which could be the can, whatever it is to drive you into drinking it. And then, of course, last but not least, a scale out of 10. So, Gonzo, I see you're drinking a delicious beverage. I know what it is, but why don't you tell the people that are listening what you're drinking, and let's talk about your rating.
Okay. Well, this isn't my favorite craft beer, but a month ago I went ice fishing in Green Bay and when you're out in Wisconsin, you got to pick up some spotted cow when you're out there. And me and my dad went to Walmart. I should say my dad, he just ran in there with his money and he just unloaded on New Glarus.
Of course he did.
He got all the flavors that he saw. And this particular one, he doesn't like this one, but, this is the only one that's left, and I'm going to drink it because it's New Glarus. But it's called Moon Man. If you want to take a look at it, it's an IPA. It's kind of like their IPA version, and I like it. But if you want me to get into my favorite craft beer, right before COVID, when I was in spring training out in Tempe, they had this local brewery tent, and I had to go and try it out. And they had this grapefruit and peach beer. And my favorite beer is called the Grapefruit Rattler of Four Peaks Brewing Company. And if you're out in Tempe or you're out in Arizona watching spring training, or you're going to go out there to watch Arizona Diamondbacks baseball, you got to stop by this brewery. The beer is absolutely amazing. The APV was 3.8, so it's actually light. It didn't taste like 3.8. It tasted a little bit heavier than that. So it's kind of, maybe I had too much of it. I don't even know. But the taste of it is a golden lager. It's a hint of ginger with the grapefruit juice. And if you want to know the taste of it, it's slightly more malty than bitter. And of course, like I said, with that short 3.8 ABV, it's obviously more light than it is heavy.
So it's got a good chuggability.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, excellent, Gonzo. That sounds like a winner right there. And I'll go ahead and go next. Of course, I just knocked down my can. It didn't spill, thankfully. It's probably going to explode when I open it on the air here in just a second. But I love craft beer as well. I've got a ton of great breweries. There's been a lot of great comments in the chat. I'm just going to spotlight what I've been drinking, my new go-to. It's now that we're kind of in spring. I know everyone, they have a drink they like to drink when it gets starts to warm up. And our folks at Goose Island, also a sponsor of the White Sox. I got a glare there trying to get it off. It's the 312 lemonade shandy from Goose Island. I tell you what, they brew it. It's 312 beer, and they brew it with Italian ice. And I tell you what, this is as refreshing as it gets for a beer during summer.
Oh no, we're gonna miss.
There you go. Get the little sound effect there. Oh, did you miss it?
No, we got it.
Get it.
I might have interrupted it, but we got it.
All right, got the crack. It smells good. It smells very citrusy. You got that lemonade ice smell to it. I feel like I'm on a cooking show, but this is great. I'm gonna take a little sip here. Pinkies up. All right.
That was a nice ASMR slurp right there. That was good.
I did it for the microphone because my mic is literally right out of camera right here. So we're on its flavor. I give it a solid 9 out of 10 because it gives you exactly what you want when you want a shandy. You get that lemonade, you get that light beer mixed with it. It's excellent. It's not very bitter. Just got a little bit of bitterness in there. Chuggability out of 10. This gets a 10 out of 10 for chuggability, man. You can go ahead and chug this. I'm actually going to chug it as soon as I finish talking about it on camera, just so you guys can see it on television, because why not? It's great to do because you got a camera. But and then presentation-wise, you got to love the can because you got the 312 area code, Goose Island, lemonade. Got a picture of a goose on there. I mean, why not? Special, kind of like Mario's lemonade stand downtown, not too far from the 312 Goose Island Brewery. Got to love it. It's very catching of the eye. It just screams refreshing. And out of a scale out of 10, the lemonade shandy, in terms of like a refreshing beer, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's a go-to all summer long. You can drink the hell out of it. And yes, PZ, it is a beer that's brewed with lemonade in it. So you get like this refreshing beer taste. It's great. And I'm going to chug it right now, guys. So let's just do it because why not? Mondays are for the boys.
Cheers.
I'm not chugging this. I'm sorry. Wow, way to go, Joe.
Oh, I did it.
Would have been way better to shotgun, but that's me.
I didn't think
one up.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about shotgunning it. That would have been smart. Hey, we're gonna do this segment all the time. So
that's right.
I promise next time we do this, guys, I will shotgun a beer.
Book it. We need that clip taken. So I
Put
guess
it in the book.
I think that's my job. Wait, no, we can
Put it on the board!
I think we should have a pasta party, actually.
No, Timmy's hurt.
Yes, we should.
It's time for a pasta party!
Thank you. I just needed it. But now talk about your beer. Now it's your time to shine, Zim.
So I got this wonderful local Denver. Sorry, I don't know how well you can hear me there. I got this wonderful local Denver graham cracker porter from the Denver Beer Company. And what I love about it is that it is a porter, but it is more somewhere between a porter and a stout. Definitely heavier on that end, but bubbly like a amber. So it's still kind of light at the same time. You can drink it at this nice in-between time in the seasons when it's still chilly at night, but warm in the afternoon. You're coming down from a hot day and you want something cold. I will say it is much too heavy and much too filling for midsummer. So this is probably about as late in the year as I'll drink it. But I mean, the presentation, I think it looks very nice. It's supposed to give you the idea of a campfire.
I was just about to say that. Yes.
Yeah, I think it does a very good job of that. It's made for being enjoyed around the campfire. There's a nice little
or watching a ball game.
Yes. The people here in Colorado are very woodsy. Very
yes, they are.
they enjoy getting drunk around the campfire. What can I say? No, I will say this graham cracker porter, it's a very misleading title. And I see that Santiago is questioning that, and that's part of the reason why I want to address it. It's very misleading. It does not taste like a graham cracker at all. I will say that. When you drink it, the first notes I get are a nice malty, almost chocolatey sort of flavor, but still a very bitter, amber sort of taste. Like I
put
said,
the pinky up. Pinky up.
I'm not putting the pinky up. This is a man's beer.
Do it.
And yeah, it's nice. It's heavy. I don't know if it's available actually in the Chicagoland area, which is part of the reason why I picked it. So ultimately, let's see. Flavor, I give this a solid 8.5 out of 10 on flavor. Bitterness, it is fairly bitter, even for something like this. So probably not anywhere near IPA bitter, but as far as an amber or stout goes, or porter even, it is a little more on the bitter side, probably closer to a 7 or 8 on that scale. The chuggability, I would have to give it probably a 3.
I can't imagine it would chug very well.
No, it does not chug well at all. I tried once; it came out my nose. So, that was.
Do you have a replay of that?
No, and I'm not going to. I have not put a tarp down over here, so I'm not going to try that. Maybe another time. Presentation, though, I do give it a solid 10. I think it achieves everything it's looking for in its presentation. And while it might not be the most eye-catching, if you're looking for something that says, I want to drink this around the campfire, this is it.
Yeah, that sounds like muy delicioso. When you come out this way or I go out that way, maybe I'll go out there for the All-Star game. You never know. I definitely got to try that because I love me a good stout / porter, and that sounds delicious, man. I can just go ahead, Gonzo.
I was gonna say, Joe, I feel like when I'm at the ballpark, I'll be more honest about what I'm drinking, I guess. So I know last show I said that I'm up in the 300 level and there's a full bar right behind me. So
fancy ass.
When I'm at the bar, the full bar right behind the section, I might, I kind of trade off between going light beer and then because the pricing is for two shots for your call drinks. It's $20.
Good.
So, I like to stare at them and be like, all right, I'll take the 2 shots, but you better fucking pour the whole bottle in that cup because I'm not leaving unless I get what I want. Because, if I'm spending $20, I better get a pretty solid pour of Jack or Captain and a splash of Coke, for that pricing. But yeah, I'm usually throwing my call drinks up and buying some light beers as well.
There you go. I love it, man. And we've had some really good answers from the chat. A lot of people love beer. Our buddy Harp, Bell's Too Hard at IPA, of course, in Michigan. Great stuff. My dad, Ghost Ride by Revolution Brewing is his favorite. That's another excellent brew. Ron Ruppnow, Blue Moon, Spotted Cow, Stella, Lone Star. Great list of beers. Really tasty stuff. I mean, Travis, this is a good one. 3 Floyds Zombie Dust. I'm a big fan of 3 Floyds, based out of Munster, Indiana. It's so hoppy and bitter. Santiago, Lagunitas IPA or Revolution Anti-Hero or Goose Island Solo IPA. All excellent, very hoppy, not very much chuggability, but delicious. Travis Dunaway, Victory Sour Monkey. I have not tried that, but I do love sour beers. Travis also said Boulevard Tank 7 is a must. I have had Boulevard Brewing. They're good. Brittany Beckel, Dry Dock Brewing Company, Sour Apricot. That sounds really good and kind of different. I would give that a shot. PZ, Black and Tan, the good old classic Black and Tan. Little Guinness, little ale. Travis, Boulevard Bully Porter. I know Zim would probably go nuts for that.
I'm seeing a whole list of new beers to try is what I'm seeing right here. So
Travis got a lot of good ones. Market Garden Lemon Shandy. That probably sounds similar to this 312 Shandy that I have. Anyone who doesn't know, Shandy is beer brewed with lemonade or whatever flavored lemon drink. And it's the best delicious thing on a hot summer day. Don't knock it till you try it. Our buddy PZ going with the classic Hams beer. You can't go wrong. Harp, if you're going cheap with the Miller Lite, absolutely. Although guaranteed rate has changed back to Bud Light, but that's beside the point. PZ also mentions Schlitz.
Do they even make Schlitz anymore?
Yes, they do.
Really? I don't think I've seen a Schlitz in my life.
Last time I was in Wisconsin, I saw it all over the place.
That explains it. Wisconsin.
I mean, I'm sure it's probably other places, but every time I'm in Wisconsin, I feel like I'm in the Schlitz zone. It makes me give a Schlitz.
Can I just say real quick how proud I am of our chat for not saying old style anywhere in here?
Someone just said old style, Zim. Thanks.
Yeah, I think my dad's drinking some old style upstairs.
No, I'm kidding. Nobody said old style. I just wanted to see your reaction.
It's just not good beer. It's just not. Like, I understand it's like that Chicago staple, but last time I had a old style, I needed a shot of Malort to wash it down. It was that bad.
Oh, that must be really bad then, because Malort's definitely horrible too.
Santiago put up the Revolution. I don't really like 11 Revolution too much, but I really enjoy their freedom of speech beer that they put out recently, and it was really good.
Yeah, Lagunitas is great.
Probably my favorite Revolution product that they have. So,
yeah, we got a plethora of good beer in Chicago and across the country, so it's a good problem to have. Lots of good beers. We'll be doing this segment a few times throughout the course of the season, because who doesn't like talking about beer? And maybe we'll do a cocktail segment one of these days. If you're not drinking beer, what are you drinking? So we could do that too. We'll tee that up for another show. Maybe we could tee that up for next week. Let's go ahead and just tee that up now. We'll say what's your game day cocktail? Not a beer, but if you're drinking something that's not a beer, what is it? We're going to talk about that next week. We'll bring our favorites to the table. Maybe I'll chug that one too and get hammered on the air. Who knows? Probably not. I'm not going to chug on.
Can we do it at the beginning of the show then? That would make for a really interesting show.
Yeah, that's the drunk South Burbs Hitmen. It's like Drunk Uncle, except it's a full hour and a half long show.
We'll do a special sometime. The South Burbs Drunkmen.
Oh, I like that.
The South Burbs Drunk Tank.
But for that, we'll have to go down to like Bridgeport by the Sox Park, and we'll go to like Mitchell's or something, one of the local bars over there. And we'll just get tanked and do a whole show there.
Yeah, this whole summer we're just gonna go bar hopping each Monday night for different breweries and pubs. I like that idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just can't wait to go to 35th Street Red Hots next Saturday and get me a dog either before or after I go in the park. But that's beside the point. And then I'll have a hot dog coma on the way home after that. But looking forward to going to the game next Saturday. It's going to be fun. It has been a great night talking baseball with all you guys. Huge thanks to everybody in the chat. There's so many people, I can't even thank you all, but just a few. Travis, PZ, Santiago, of course, Harp, Brittany, Harp. I said all these people already. My dad. Everyone, if you're in the chat room, thank you so much.
How about Ron Rupp now, man?
Well, I was going to give him his own special shout out.
Oh, all right. He's one of our most valuable listeners. Well, I shouldn't say valuable. One of our most loyal listeners. I'm sorry. I chose the wrong word there.
Yes, he's a very loyal listener and a great friend. I'll be going to the Sox game with him and a certain barkeeper next Saturday at Guaranteed Rate Field. Looking forward to that. We'll have some in-person commentary for next week's show to talk about the new COVID experience in the ballpark. And spoiler alert, I haven't even asked him yet, but I'm thinking about asking the director behind the scenes to come on a little bit to talk about, that experience at the ballpark, because he's going to be there too for the COVID world. Although there he is with a thumbs up. He said yes. I'll take that as a yes. So that's going to be fun. We'll talk about COVID experience at the ballpark next week. Huge thanks to everybody for tuning in. Sox game is starting up right now. Go check it out. Let's get a win against the Mariners tonight. Carlos taking the mound. Redemption starts tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to South Burbs Hitmen. We'll see you guys next week. Later.
Go Sox.
Go Sox.